Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Anil Thomas. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. US President Joe Biden speaks with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, discusses Israel's military objectives in Gaza and importance of securing the release of all remaining hostages. India's swift action after attack on merchant ships sends ships to rescue vessel with 20 Indians. In women's cricket, resilient Australia fights back, but India still on top going into the final day in the one-off test match. Israel continues its operations to neutralize terror group Hamas. Smoke filled the sky over Gaza on Saturday morning, as seen from southern Israel, as air and ground offensive was reported across the enclave. Israel says 140 of its soldiers have been killed during this operation against Hamas terror group since it's launched its ground incursion on the 20th of October. As per the White House, US President Joe Biden spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Saturday to discuss the situation in Israel and Gaza. Biden said he did not ask Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for a ceasefire in the long call the two leaders had over the weekend. Protests, meanwhile, continued in Israel's Tel Aviv, demanding the release of hostages held by the terror group Hamas. The protesters gathered at Tel Aviv's Hostage Square. The demonstrations were only a short walk apart, and many protesters took part in the two protests as they shared similar sentiments of the safe relief of the hostages. Israel's defense ministry, meanwhile, has released a video on Saturday which shows Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant and Emergency Minister Benny Gantz visiting troops deployed in northern Gaza. Israel is battling Hamas terrorist group in its fight against terrorism. The Israeli Defense Forces have said that in the early hours on Sunday that a number of launches were identified crossing from Lebanon towards various parts in northern Israel. In retaliation, the IDF engaged in fire and struck the source of fire. Throughout Saturday, IDF artillery struck a number of areas in Lebanon. IDF fighter jets struck a military command center belonging to the Hezbollah terrorist organization. Due to the launches fired from Lebanon towards Manara, an IDF soldier in reserves was moderately injured from the shrapnel. Shifting focus to Russia, Ukraine and the fallout of it. Former TV journalist Yekaterina Dantasova, who announced that she would go against President Vladimir Putin, was disqualified on Saturday as a candidate for Russia's next presidential elections. Members of the Central Electoral Commission voted unanimously to reject her candidacy, citing numerous violations in a paper she had submitted in support of her bid. Dantasova had applied to the Electoral Commission to be registered as a candidate just 3 days earlier. The Russian politician said she would challenge the decision in the Supreme Court, calling it unjustified and undemocratic. In a separate development in Russia, Boris Nemtsov, an opposition politician who has been critical of Vladimir Putin and its special military operation in Ukraine, was put forward as presidential candidate on by the center-right Civic Initiative Party, that's CIP. The party said he planned to register with the Electoral Commission on December 25th. Putin's best-known opponent, Alexei Navalny, is serving prison sentence totaling more than 30 years, and his supporters say they do not even know where he is, after they were told he had been moved from his previous penal colony earlier this month. Moving to Congo, where the initial results of the ongoing presidential elections in the Democratic Republic of Congo have started to trickle out amid accusations that the election was rigged. According to Friday's results coming from the voters that have been counted in a few of the Congolese living overseas, the incumbent president there, Felix Tshisekedi, is taking a comfortable lead. Meanwhile, Moise Katumbi, one of the main opposition candidates, is also very much in the fray in the presidential elections and has added his voice to calls for the December 20th vote to be annulled because of massive fraud. According to the official electoral calendar, provisional results are expected by December 31st, and the president-elect will be sworn in on Jan 20th of 2024. Chilean President Gabriel Boric said there wouldn't be any more constitutional referendums during his term. This is after 2 attempts to replace the country's current constitution failed. President Gabriel Boric said during a televised address that the country got polarized, adding that his government would focus on more urgent matters. With 99.65% of the ballot boxes tallied, Chileans rejected a new text that sought to replace the current constitution that dates back to the Augusto Pinochet's dictatorship time. Many Chileans have voiced mistrust and disenchantment with the process after years of polarization and political infighting. Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy pledged to pardon all peaceful protesters that took part in the events of Jan 6th attack in the US Capitol of 2021. At the Turning Point Action Conference, Vivek Ramaswamy said that the attacks looked not just like an intelligence failure, but an intentional intelligence failure. According to polling and analysis website, Ramaswamy has a support of 4% of Republican primary voters, while Trump is in the lead with roughly 63% support. A local court in El Salvador has ordered the arrest of former President Alfredo Cristini for the alleged cover-up of the 1981 El Mozote massacre during the Central American country's civil war that lasted 12 years. In the document issued by a court in San Francisco, Gotera on Friday, Cristini is named as one of the 10 people who promoted a general amnesty law that was approved in 1993 and exonerates those accused of war crimes. Calling the El Mozote massacre a crime against humanity, the document orders the capture of the former president and 4 other defendants who later were part of the country's Congress. During the El Mozote massacre, some 1,000 farmers or peasants died in a 4-day counterinsurgency military operation. Moving on, numerous migrants continue to cross the US-Mexico border into Texas as the Christmas holiday weekend got underway on Saturday. Video shows hundreds of migrants crossing through barbed wires on the US side of the Rio Grande River and then being detained by the US National Guard troops. Mexico's President Andrés Manuel López Obrador had announced on Friday that his government will strengthen its efforts to control immigration as it seeks to assist the United States in dealing with an unprecedented surge of migrants. They are attempting to cross the borders using the US-Mexico border as the link, and the announcement comes after he spoke with US President Joe Biden, during which the two leaders agreed that more border enforcement is necessary as the surge of migrants disrupt cross-border commerce between the two nations. Venezuelan migrants crossing through northern Mexico's Huayu state on Saturday said that Mexican authorities were harassing them. Various migrants in the border towns of Piedras Negras recalled police, immigration officers and army asking for money and physically harassing them. On the other side of the Rio Grande River, which serves as a natural border, migrants waited behind barbed wire for US Border Patrol agents to process them. With weather extremities gripping the world, large swaths of Australia on Sunday sweated through heat wave conditions as authorities warned of a high bushfire risk. This is across many parts of the country's vast Western Australian state. The nation's weather forecasters on Sunday issued heat wave alerts for the state and neighbouring Northern Territory, warning temperatures in some regions could hit as high as 45 degrees Celsius. In Western Australia, more than 20 bushfires were burning on Sunday, and the state authorities on Sunday have warned of a high fire danger for many parts of Western Australia. Meanwhile, rising sea levels are threatening Nigeria's coastal communities. In the southwestern town of Ayatora, more than 80% of the people have left their homes. Initially, the town was several kilometers away from sea, but in the past 2 decades, it has been gradually invaded by seawater. Once a home to over 30,000, the town is now left with a mere population of just 5,000 people. An earthquake of magnitude 4.6 struck off Taiwan's eastern coast on Sunday, the island's weather bureau has reported, but that was barely felt on the land. The earthquake's epicenter was in the sea of Taiwan's Taitung County at a depth of 16.5 kilometers. Only minor shaking was reported in the country, a largely rural area. The earthquake was not felt in the capital Taipei, and Taiwan lies between the junction of two tectonic plates and is prone to earthquakes. Lab-grown diamonds have grown in popularity over the past several years and have become a viable choice for customers worldwide when shopping for diamond jewelry. Let's take a look at this detailed report.
Lab-grown gems have become popular over the past few years and are now a viable choice when shopping for jewelry. A London designer dealing in these gems finds them perfect. She says that they are a unique blend of science and art.
I think working with laboratory-grown diamonds and laboratory-grown color stones for me really brings a glimpse into the future of what fine jewelry looks like, because I think it is about a celebration of science and art together.
It is a chemical process that takes around 10 weeks compared to billions of years to form naturally.
So laboratory-grown gemstones are about mimicking the conditions within the earth where gemstones are formed, but in a controlled environment.
Interestingly, market analysts believe that the lab-grown jewelry market is surging, with year-on-year market growth of 20% annually in recent years at $15 billion.
Lab-grown diamonds are a new product that are seeing a great deal of demand in the U.S. market. They represent about 85% of sales globally are in the United States. And in the past year, in terms of total lab-grown jewelry sales, we saw a 55% rise over last year.
Mid-market fashion jewelry retailers like Pandora and Swarovski also introduced lab-grown stones. Priced at 60% less than natural gems, they are highly crafted but accessible jewelry options for the customers.
Customers buying lab-grown diamonds can enter for a variety of reasons. Maybe for them, the sustainability factor is important. Maybe it's the price-value equation, right? Understanding that they can get a very high level of quality at a price that's more affordable than diamonds that are drawn from the earth.
This new category of gems is popular and profitable, sparking change across the jewelry landscape and democratizing the diamond industry. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, time now for take a look at some other stories from across the world. Starting first up with German police heightening security at Cologne Cathedral following indications of an attack planned for New Year's Eve. German newspapers earlier reported that security authorities in Austria, Germany and Spain had received indications of attacks during the Christmas and New Year festivities. Police said they could not elaborate, citing the ongoing investigation. Families gathered outside Santa Claus' home in Finland's Rovaniemi on Saturday as he set out from the Arctic Circle on his journey to deliver Christmas gifts to children all over the world. Before boarding his sleigh, Santa called for people to focus on children's well-being and to live in peace together after a stormy year. Football fans filled up FC Union's soccer stadium in Berlin on Saturday for the annual Christmas sing-along. The event sees 28,000 people attending each year since 2015. The songs are a mixture of well-known Christmas carols like Silent Night and football songs. Around 100 actors and musicians are staging a performance recreating the birth of Jesus Christ in a cave in Slovenia. Visitors can watch the story told in 16 scenes strung along 5 kilometers underground in Pastojna caves. Still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Flood waters start receding in the southern Indian state of Tamil Nadu. Preparations for Christmas celebrations in full swing across India. And Indian batter Rituraj Gaikwad ruled out of the Test series. Why? We tell you ahead.
The gateway to Northeast India welcomes you to the land of untouched natural beauty and diverse history.
While you're watching DD India Live, I'm Anil Thomas. A merchant ship, MV Camp Pluto, was reportedly attacked by a suspected drone strike on aerial platform in the Arabian Sea. The ship caught fire after the attack. The Indian Coast Guard ship ICGS Vikram, deployed on patrol off the Indian Exclusive Economic Zone, rescued the merchant vehicle. The vehicle was carrying chemicals from Saudi Arabia's Zubail port to Mangalore in India. After the rescue by the Indian Coast Guard, the vessel has started moving towards Indian city of Mumbai and will reach the coast by early hours of December 25th. All crew members are safe, which include around 20 Indians. The Indian Coast Guard will be escorting the ship during its passage. V. Muralidharan, the Minister of State for External Affairs of India, participated in a community event in Fulija in UAE, where he aimed to address and evaluate the diverse challenges encountered by the Indian diaspora. The gathering brought to the forefront various concerns expressed by the Indian community, which included passport tatkal issues, implementation of Aadhaar cards for non-resident Indians, among others. In his address, the Indian minister touched upon the significance of recent legislative changes, citing them as essential steps towards achieving a vision of a developed India. The minister had earlier visited the Indian consulate in Dubai on his two-day trip to the UAE and conducted a comprehensive review of all consular issues.
During this visit of UAE, last 2 days I have been interacting with the representatives of the Indian community and also with the officials in the consulate. Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji has been always putting across the point that the government of India is there for the welfare of every Indian, wherever he stays. So in that context, making the life of every Indian community member in UAE, making their life better, the welfare of those Indian members of the diaspora, the community's efforts are being supplemented by the government, and the consulate has been making all efforts to see that those issues are solved.
Indian Minister of State for Science and Technology, Dr. Jitendra Singh, stated that Indian women are increasingly assuming leadership roles in every sphere of life and profession, and they are moving away from a long-held participatory role. He said women have arrived, which is evidenced in their role that has powered India's Chandrayaan mission. The minister was speaking at a symposium themed Women in Workplace Issues and Challenges at a government degree college in Kathua in the Indian Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Calling upon the youth to benefit from the enabling schemes provided by the Indian government, he advised them to realize their aspirations and soar higher. Stating that the youth are living in the best of times, he asked them to make judicious use of technology. The minister also asked the students to realize Prime Minister's vision of a developed nation or a developed India by 2047. In India, coal imports for blending has decreased substantially by 44.28% to 15.16 metric tons up to November 2023 from 27.21 metric tons in the corresponding period of the previous year, despite the escalating power demands. This shows the nation's commitment to self-reliance in coal production and minimizing overall coal imports. Let's take a look at other stories making news today. To promote green mobility in India, the central government has given 5,200 28 crore rupees subsidy to incentivize 1.15 million electric vehicles. The government has also sanctioned 800 crore rupees to PSU oil marketing companies for setting up 7,432 public fast charging stations across the country. The country is implementing the scheme faster adoption and manufacturing electric vehicles. As the whole nation awaits the inauguration of the Lord Ram temple in the Indian city of Ayodhya, the auspicious moment for the consecration has been officially scheduled for the 22nd of January next year at noon. The auspicious timing, known as Abhijit Muhurat, has been carefully chosen to mark this historic event. The consecration ceremony is set to commence at 12:30 p.m. that's Indian Standard Time, precisely during the auspicious Abhijit Muhurat, and is expected to last for a symbolic 84 seconds. In a festive prelude to the upcoming Christmas, a lively Christmas cake baking contest was organized in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. The event, which saw enthusiastic participation from the contestants, is part of a broader initiative to gear up for the winter season and attract visitors to the picturesque Kashmir Valley. Preparations for Christmas celebrations are in full swing in India. People have already started decorating and illuminating their homes to celebrate the festival. The Christmas celebrations got a local twist in India, in Indian homes and streets, as they are adorned with twinkling fairy lights, bright marigold and mango leaves alongside the traditional Christmas tree and nativity scenes to welcome Santa. On to women's test cricket between India and Australia. The one-off test in Wankhede. India will look to win their one-off test against Australia going into the final day. On day 3, Australia fought back as they scored 233 for 5 in their second innings with a lead of 46 runs on Saturday. Led by Tahila 73, the guests kept themselves in the race with a better performance in the second innings. Skipper Harmanpreet Kaur's golden arm came to India's rescue as 2 late wickets on the day brought India back into the game. Sneha Rana also picked up 2 wickets. Earlier, a 122-run stand for the 8th wicket between Dipti Sharma and Pooja Vastrarkar propelled India to a score of 406 in the first innings, a lead of 187 runs in reply to Australia's 219. Indian batter Rituraj Gaikwad has been ruled out of the Test series against South Africa after he suffered an injury to his right ring finger while fielding in the second ODI against the Proteas. The BCCI has said he will report to the NCA for further management of his injury. The men's selection committee has named Abhimanyu Ishwaran as his replacement. That's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. We're going to be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Anil Thomas from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.